if you hit Farmville, Virginia, and you start driving west out on Highway 60, and you drive out west for hours and hours and hundreds of miles, eventually you'll hit I-81, start cruising down south, another couple of hours or so, and then drive even further west into out there in the very tip of Virginia, you'll find Lee County. And in Lee County schools, the school board there earlier this year voted unanimously to see if there were any volunteers among the staff who would get vetted and trained to be armed school staff, because they want to protect the students there. They've got 11 different campuses in Lee County, and they do not have the money. They do not have the budget. They don't have the budget to fix the roof in their schools. So they don't have the money for school resource officers for every one of these buildings. And that's what they decided to do. And then the Attorney General of Virginia, Mark Herring, came out with an advisory opinion a few weeks ago saying you can't do that. You can't do that. These do not meet the definition of a special conservator of the peace. The state agency that issues those licenses for special conservators of the peace came out yesterday and said, nope, no, we're just following what the Attorney General said. You're out of luck here. Might want to look into, hiring school resource officers. I mean, this is amazing. And again, the real consequences here are going to be in the safety and security of those kids at school in Lee County. Join us to talk about it. Legislative Affairs Director for the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, Mr. Dave Adams, is with us. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Cam. How about you?
I'm okay. I got to tell you, I'm fired up about this story out of Lee County. This is, to me, this is just the perfect example of the out-of-touch, absent government issuing these dictates to localities with really, a politics over people in mind.
Oh, it's the classic "we know better than you" scenario, and it was a classic setup by the Criminal Justice Services, who is the one who requested the opinion from the Attorney General. He or she, I'm not sure whether it's a he or she based on the name, but is an appointee of Governor Northam, and got the answer that they were looking for, so they could spike what Lee County wanted to do in direct opposition to what the folks at the local level said was best for them.
Yeah, and as a result, I know that the chairman of the Lee County School Board, actually was the superintendent, who said they're talking with attorneys to see what their next steps are. I mean, this has all been done outside of the purview of the court system. So if the school board wants to challenge this decision, first of all, there's an appeals process with that state agency. But I got to tell you, Dave, I think the fix is in here. I don't think they're going to win that appeal. So the other option would be to try to challenge this in court, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and, the option that DCJS gave them to apply for grant money is, that money runs out eventually, and then who picks up the cost of that?
Well, that's right. I mean, this is something we were talking about yesterday. I mean, it's all fine and good to say, well, just go get the grant money. First of all, I don't know that they would I don't know that they would receive enough grant money to pay for a school resource officer for all 11 campuses. That would be a lot for Lee County to get just in terms of grants. I mean, you're talking about almost $1 million a year in terms of salary and benefits for 11 officers.
Yeah, and DCJS doesn't typically give out that kind of money to just one locality.
So, I don't think that's a practical suggestion from the state of Virginia. And that to me is the other really frustrating thing here, is that if you are a parent in Lee County, or you are a school staffer in Lee County, and you know what the situation is like on the ground, to have these people who've never been to your schools, who've never been to your town, come and tell you this is how we think you've got to protect your kids, the kids that I've never met, the kids that I never will meet. This is us telling you how to protect the ones that you love.
And this was something that was supported by the folks out there, the residents of Lee County. And I don't recall reading anything in any of the news stories that there was any large opposition to this. It was supported by the school board and by the parents. And, Richmond spikes it because they know best.
Right. And again, I don't know, obviously, any other school districts that were thinking about following Lee County's lead in Virginia, Dave. They're obviously going to be taking a second look at this and, putting any plans on hold. And legislatively, I got to say, any bill that could possibly get out of the legislature, I would think would be vetoed immediately by Governor Ralph Northam, who's come out in opposition to armed school staff as an option even for rural school districts.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption that the governor is not going to approve any bill that comes out of the legislature. And the way it's split right now, I'm not sure you'd get a bill out.
I'm not sure either. I was up in New Jersey over the weekend at the New Jersey Second Amendment Firearms Education Conference talking about, the importance of elections and saying that Virginia, we got a lot closer to looking like New Jersey after 2017 when we saw a lot of pro-gun representatives get voted out of office, and elections unfortunately have consequences. And so any effort that you might see to try to make it easier for school districts to take this step, it's just not going to happen. And in the meantime, again, we know that the answers coming from the anti-gun politicians in the state of Virginia are not acceptable, particularly in those rural areas. So, Dave, I mean, we're really left with a situation here in the Old Dominion where if you can't afford armed school security, you're out of luck. You better hope that sheriff's deputies get there pretty fast.
It's just one more example of localities like Lee County and some along Southside Virginia who are in that situation. They get the second-class treatment to those who are flush with cash and can do the types of things that they think are necessary to protect their students.
Sadly, I think you're right. Dave Adams joined us again, legislative affairs director at the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. Dave, I got to ask you while we've got you here, obviously we had our state elections last year in Virginia. We'll have them again next year, but we do obviously have a Senate race. We've got congressional races. You may have local ballot initiatives. Are you guys looking for volunteers? Are you working with NRA's Institute for Legislative Action? And what's the easiest way for Virginia gun owners to get involved this election cycle?
The best way is to go to nraila.org. There's the volunteer page on the ILA website where you can sign up to be a frontline volunteer, and that's the best way at this point. And there's also a special election for the House of Delegates, which could decide whether the pro-gun majority remains in effect by one vote or whether it flips to an anti-gun majority, because Delegate Greg Habib resigned his seat in June, and there's a special election in Roanoke to fill his seat, and that could have dire consequences if it goes the wrong way.
Do you think, an honest question, Dave, do you think gun owners in Virginia, did we get the wake-up call last November? Are you seeing an engaged a group of gun owners right now?
I don't know if they have understood how quickly we could become California or New Jersey if the General Assembly were to flip in the state elections next year. I honestly don't know if they've understood just how bad things could be.
All right, so lay it out for us, Dave. What are if anti-gun politicians take control of the General Assembly next year? What are some of the bills you expect to be filed?
I would expect, obviously, the background check bill, universal background checks. I would expect a ban on so-called assault weapons, which are, America's most popular rifle right now, the modern sporting rifle. I would see the end to preemption, where localities could pass a patchwork of gun control laws from one end of the state to the other. Those are the things that just pop off my head, just off the top of my head right now.
What about a return to one gun a month?
Absolutely. That would be another one. And you would see it into concealed carry in restaurants that also serve alcohol as well as food.
Because that was a change. When was that? Was that 2011 when that law changed?
2010 or 2011. It was one of the two. It was while Governor Bob McDonnell was in office.
Okay. And again, there have been no issues with concealed carry in restaurants where alcohol is served. You still, if you're carrying, you can't drink. But that's another area where they would try to roll back. And again, that's interesting that you bring that up, because this is something we've not actually seen gun control groups really try to do yet, Dave. They might, wail and moan against concealed carry, but they've not really tried to take active steps to try to repeal carry laws that are on the books. I know the Democratic candidate for governor in Kansas is talking about trying to repeal constitutional carry, but you think that they would actually go after our right to bear arms in Virginia if given the opportunity?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it written. Bloomberg is writing laws from one part of the country to the next, either in referendums or actually through state legislatures. They've got a template, and they go from one to the other. You were talking about yesterday what happened in Nevada. His template was incorrect for them for the universal background check, which would have required the federal government to do something they can't do there because a state like Virginia runs their own background checks. But they've got a template, and they're going from state to state to do those. And once they get a legislature that would be amenable to them, they're going to pass all sorts of laws here, and it's going to be just like overnight.
What about ammo? Do you think that take aim at ammo? I know we're seeing that in places like California, Wayne County, Michigan. Would that be a big topic, you think, for anti-gun lawmakers?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question because there again, that's something that you haven't seen them attempt to do in the General Assembly here with the list of anti-gun bills they put in. But I think once they started going on a roll, I think anything is possible.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if whatever they feel like they can get away with, that's what they'll try to pass.
Exactly right.
All right, Dave, listen, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir. Thank you so much for everything you do with the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. myvssa.org is the website. If you are a Virginia gun owner, please get involved with the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. And, Dave, look forward to talking to you again very soon, sir.
Great. Thanks a lot, Cam.
Thank you. Dave Adams with us here on Cam and Company.